The truth didn't knock politely this time, Mitt kicked the door in. Because what just surfaced around Erika Kirk and Mikey McCoy's family drama isn't rumor. It isn't he said, she said, and it definitely isn't something you brush off with a fake apology post. This is the kind of exposure that makes people delete drafts, lock comments, and suddenly take a break from social media. For years, the story sat there looking clean on the surface, smiles, statements, carefully worded silence. But behind the scenes, according to what's now leaking out, the reality was messier than a group chat after midnight. And in 2025, that mess finally spilled. Sources say details were hidden in plain sight. Conversations people weren't supposed to hear. Decisions that didn't add up. And once one piece slipped, the rest came crashing down like dominoes nobody bothered to secure. The internet thought it knew this family drama. Turns out, it barely scratched the surface. What's being exposed now flips the narrative so hard it makes reality TV look scripted, and the Kardashians look UNDERPREPARED. Group chats are lighting up. Old clips are being replayed with new meaning. And the shock isn't just what's being said, it's who's being called out. Stay right here. Because once this truth came out, there was no putting it back in the box. And the fallout. It's just getting started. The story didn't unravel all at once. It peeled back slowly, like someone tugging on a loose thread and realizing the whole sweater was coming apart. For years, the public version of this family drama looked controlled, polished, and intentionally quiet. But silence doesn't mean peace. Sometimes it just means people are waiting for the right moment, according to sources close to the situation. That moment arrived when conversations that were never meant to leave private spaces started circulating. Not polished statements. Not PR-approved explanations. Raw exchanges that didn't match the image everyone had been shown. And once those details surfaced, the narrative began to wobble. What makes this situation explosive isn't one accusation. It's the pattern. The way decisions lined up. The way explanations kept shifting depending on who was listening. People started asking why timelines didn't add up and why certain topics were consistently avoided. Instead of addressed, Erika Kirk's name being pulled into the center of this wasn't random, at least according to insiders. They claim her role had always been bigger than publicly acknowledged. Not loud, not obvious, but influential in ways that don't show up on camera or in headlines until someone points directly at them. For a long time, Mikey McCoy's family drama was framed as complicated but contained. Private matters. Emotional disagreements. Nothing unusual. But the newly leaked details reframed those assumptions, turning complicated into carefully managed. The first reactions weren't public outrage. They were confusion. People reread old statements and watched past interviews with fresh eyes. Things that once sounded reasonable suddenly felt rehearsed. Pauses felt intentional. Smiles felt forced. Sources allege that certain choices made behind the scenes played a major role in how events unfolded. Not just reactions to problems, but decisions that may have shaped the problems themselves. That distinction matters. And it's why this exposure hit differently. What raised eyebrows most was how consistently responsibility seemed to shift. One moment, it was circumstance. Another moment, it was misunderstanding. Another moment, it was someone else entirely. When explanations change too often, credibility starts slipping through the cracks. Those close to the family say tensions had been building long before the public noticed. Disagreements weren't loud, but they were persistent. The kind that don't explode right away, but quietly poison trust over time. The leak that set everything off, reportedly, wasn't dramatic. No big reveal. No public announcement. Just information reaching the wrong people at the wrong time. But once it did, the floodgates didn't need forcing. Suddenly, people inside the circle began talking. not to the public, but to each other. Comparing notes, questioning memories, realizing they didn't all experience the same truth. That's when the story started. Fracturing, Erika's involvement became a focal point because it connected multiple threads: decisions, conversations, influence. According to insiders, when you trace the issues backward, her name kept appearing where people didn't expect it to. That doesn't mean a single villain. This isn't a cartoon story with clear heroes and villains. It's messier than that. But exposure doesn't require simplicity. It requires clarity, and clarity was suddenly in short supply. Mikey McCoy's role in all this added another layer. Family loyalty complicates everything. When you're emotionally invested, objectivity becomes optional. Sources suggest that loyalty may have delayed accountability longer than it should have. Publicly, the first signs of trouble appeared as subtle changes. Less engagement, carefully worded posts, avoidance disguised as privacy. To casual viewers, it looked like normal distance. To those paying attention, it felt like retreat. When the leaked information started circulating more widely, reactions shifted from curiosity to concern. Not outrage yet. Just that uncomfortable realization that the story people believed might not be complete. Old clips resurfaced. Old comments were reinterpreted. Statements once seen as harmless suddenly felt strategic. The past didn't change, but its meaning did. What really escalated things was how fast defenses went up. Instead of addressing specifics, responses stayed vague. That vagueness didn't calm anything. It made people dig harder. Sources claim that behind closed doors, conversations became tense. Accusations weren't shouted, but they were implied. Trust wasn't broken in one moment. It cracked repeatedly. The term family drama started to feel too small. This wasn't just emotional fallout. It was about control, influence, and whose version of events got protected. As the story spread, first reactions online were split. Some people dismissed it as exaggerated gossip. Others felt something deeper was being exposed. The divide grew quickly. What set this apart from typical scandals was the lack of immediate denial. No firm statements. No clear timeline corrections. Just silence and soft responses. Silence can protect you, but it also invites speculation. Those closest to the situation reportedly felt blindsided not by the exposure, but by how long it had taken to surface. According to them, warning signs had been ignored for years. The narrative people were used to began collapsing under its own weight. Too many unanswered questions. Too many inconsistencies. Too many people quietly acknowledging things didn't feel right by the time the public realized something serious was unfolding. The story was already moving faster than anyone could control. Group chats were buzzing. Private messages were being forwarded. Trust was evaporating in real time. This wasn't about one bad moment. It was about years of small decisions finally being examined together instead of separately. And once that happened, the illusion of simplicity disappeared completely. Because when you pull back the curtain on family dynamics like this, you don't just expose conflict, you expose motive. And motive is where the real story begins. Once the exposure hit a wider audience, the internet did what it does best: overclocked. Context got tossed aside like last year's hashtags, and suddenly everyone was an expert with a theory and zero patience. The story didn't just spread. It shapeshifted, picking up exaggerations, assumptions, and bold conclusions with every retell. Memes showed up faster than facts. Screenshots with red circles. Slow-motion replays of old clips that now felt suspicious instead of innocent. Someone compared the whole situation to a reality show reunion that forgot to warn viewers about emotional whiplash. Another said it made scripted drama look lazy. Public outrage didn't arrive all at once. It crept in stages. First curiosity, then skepticism, then that sharp pivot where people decide they've seen enough to choose sides. And once sides formed, nuance got evicted. Erika's name became the lightning rod. Every past statement she'd made was re-examined like it was sworn testimony. Pauses were analyzed. Tone was debated. Even silence became suspicious. Online detectives treated old interviews like hidden message puzzles. Convinced the truth had been blinking in Morse code the entire time, celebrity reactions. Added gasoline without ever touching a match. Vague posts. Side-eye emojis. Captions that said nothing while implying everything. The kind of reactions that don't clarify but definitely confirm something is off. The comparisons went wild. Some said it was giving family empire cracks. Others joked it felt like a true crime podcast unfolding in real time, except the suspects were still posting stories. The humor was sharp, but the undertone was uncomfortable. Mikey McCoy's name kept circling back into the conversation, not as the loudest voice, but as the axis everything rotated around. People questioned loyalty. They questioned awareness. They questioned how much someone cannot know when patterns repeat around them, as the backlash intensified. Attempts to redirect the narrative only made things worse. Carefully worded responses felt rehearsed. General statements avoided specifics. And avoiding specifics is the fastest way to convince the internet. You're hiding something? Supporters tried to slow the rush to judgment, arguing that family dynamics are complicated and outsiders never get the full picture. That argument didn't land the way they hoped. Once the word exposed enters a headline, the audience wants receipts, not reminders. The audience wants receipts, not reminders. Then came the threads. Long ones, detailed ones. Some thoughtful, some reckless, all confident. Timelines were stitched together with speculation as thread. And when gaps appeared, imagination filled them aggressively. What really escalated things was how many people claimed they weren't surprised. When shock turns into recognition, the tone shifts. It's no longer, "I can't believe this." It becomes, "This explains everything." Old rumors resurfaced, now treated like early warnings instead of gossip. People said they remembered hearing things years ago that suddenly made sense. Whether true or not, perception hardened. The outrage wasn't just directed at individuals. It expanded to systems. Who protected who? Who stayed silent? Who benefited from keeping things quiet? Once those questions enter the chat, no one stays untouched. Attempts to dismiss the situation as overblown didn't stick. Too many pieces lined up. Too many reactions felt coordinated. Too much effort went into managing optics instead of addressing substance. What made this moment especially volatile was how 2025 audiences process scandal. Patience is thin. Trust is rare. And once credibility cracks, it doesn't get patched with statements. It needs transparency. Transparency wasn't arriving fast enough. Even neutral observers admitted something felt off. Not illegal. Not cinematic. Just off. And off is dangerous because it invites endless interpretation. As public pressure mounted, the conversation shifted from what happened to why it took so long to surface. That question lingered like smoke. Because delays imply intention, not accident. The internet also noticed who stayed quiet. Silence from certain corners felt deliberate. And deliberate silence often reads like coordination. Even when at eye's end, by this point, the story had outgrown the original leak. It became a referendum on influence, accountability, and the cost of managing narratives inside families that live partially in public. Fans began arguing with fans. Supporters accused critics of reaching. Critics accused supporters of enabling. The middle ground vanished completely. Every new comment reignited the fire. Every attempt to calm things down felt like pouring water on grease. The more people tried to smooth it over, the more attention it attracted. And through all of it, one truth became clear. This wasn't a scandal built on one shocking moment. It was built on accumulation. Years of choices stacking quietly until the weight finally became visible. The exposure didn't feel explosive. It felt revealing. And revealing moments don't fade quickly. They reframe everything that came before by the end of the week. The internet wasn't asking if the story mattered. It was asking how much more there was. Because when the first layer peels off this cleanly, people assume there's more underneath. And that assumption, that's what keeps the fire burning. The fallout didn't hit like a bomb. It crept in like a fog that refused to lift. After the outrage cooled and the memes stopped trending, what remained was heavier consequences that didn't need hashtags to matter. Public perception around Erika Kirk shifted first, and it shifted quietly. Not in dramatic cancellations or loud callouts, but in tone. The benefit of the doubt evaporated. People stopped asking questions and started making conclusions. In the court of public opinion, hesitation reads like guilt, even when it isn't. Supporters tried to hold the line, arguing that influence isn't the same as intent and silence isn't the same as wrongdoing. That argument struggled to breathe in an environment already primed to distrust carefully managed narratives. Once confidence cracks, explanations feel late no matter when they arrive. Mikey McCoy's family dynamic took the hardest hit behind the scenes. Family loyalty, once praised as strength, suddenly looked like a liability. People questioned whether protecting peace had quietly protected problems. That question doesn't need answers to cause damage. It just needs to exist. Relationships reportedly tightened in some places and snapped in others. Exposure has a way of forcing honesty, and honesty isn't always kind. Conversations that had been avoided for years could no longer be postponed without consequences. What made this moment different from past scandals was the exhaustion surrounding it, not outrage fatigue. Audiences are tired of curated truths and selective transparency. When something feels controlled for too long, the reveal feels bigger than it actually is. Brands and partners didn't rush to make statements. They rarely do. Instead, they paused, and pauses speak volumes. Meetings slowed. Conversations went quiet. Distance appeared where access used to be easy. That's not punishment. Risk management. Erika's public presence reportedly became more measured, less spontaneous, less visible. That kind of shift doesn't scream innocence or guilt. It signals awareness. And awareness suggests someone understands the gravity of perception. Even if they dispute the narrative, attempts to clarify the situation didn't fully reset the conversation. Once a story reframes itself as exposure, corrections feel like footnotes. The main headline lives on. Even when details change, the long-term impact landed hardest in how future actions will be interpreted. Every move now gets scrutinized through a sharper lens. Silence feels strategic. Statements feel calculated. Even neutrality feels intentional. Fans noticed the change. Engagement shifted from emotional defense to quiet observation. People weren't cheering or booing as loudly anymore. They were watching, waiting, and waiting is more dangerous than outrage because it doesn't burn out quickly. What lingered most was the sense that this story wasn't finished. Not because of new leaks, but because of unresolved questions. Why certain decisions were made? Why certain voices carried more weight than others? Why it took 2025 for this truth to surface at all? The internet has a short memory, but it has a long archive. Clips resurface. Screenshots reappear. Narratives get recycled when timing feels right. This exposure didn't close a chapter, it bookmarked one. Behind closed doors, sources suggest conversations shifted toward prevention. Damage control doesn't erase the past, but it can influence the future. Who speaks? Who stays quiet? Who steps back from influence? Those decisions matter more now than ever. What makes this situation especially volatile is its ambiguity. There's no single smoking gun, no dramatic confession, just a web of influence, timing, and silence that leaves room for interpretation. And interpretation is where reputations live or die. Public sympathy didn't disappear, thinned. People stopped extending grace automatically. In 2025, grace has to be earned through clarity, not consistency alone. And clarity is hard when the story itself is fragmented. This exposure also changed how family dynamics and public spaces are viewed. Privacy used to be a shield. Now it's often seen as a strategy. That shift affects everyone who lives part of their life online. The most uncomfortable truth is this: even if every accusation were disputed tomorrow, the perception would still linger. Because perception doesn't need proof, needs plausibility. And plausibility is what this story created. As weeks passed, the intensity dulled, but the imprint remained. People moved on, but they didn't forget. The story settled into that category of moments that get referenced later. When something else happens, and suddenly it all comes back up. That's the real consequence. Not cancellation, not collapse. Context. Everything moving forward now exists in the shadow of this exposure. Every explanation will be weighed against it. Every silence will be compared to it. And that's why this doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like a line that can't be uncrossed, because once a narrative shifts from private family matter to publicly questioned influence, it never fully goes back. The truth may have shocked everyone in 2025, but the aftershocks? Those are still coming if you made it this far. Congratulations, you just sat through a story that proves family. Drama hits harder when the truth stops whispering and starts yelling. This wasn't just exposure. It was a reminder that silence can protect you. Right up until a DOESN single quotes. Now don't just stare at your screen like you accidentally overheard something you weren't supposed to. Smash that like button like it owes you an explanation. Drop your take in the comments and tell us, was this overdue accountability or a narrative that finally caught up with itself? If you're not subscribed yet, that's on you. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this don't come with warning labels. One leak turns into 10 questions. And the next chapter always hits when people think things are finally quiet. This channel doesn't chase drama, we break it down when it explodes. While others recycle headlines, we dig into what actually shifted, who gained control, and who lost the benefit of the doubt. Scandals don't disappear. They evolve, so stay locked in, stay curious. And remember, when the truth finally surfaces and the internet doesn't know what to do with it. Rap Shocker is already ahead of the fallout. Rap Shocker is already ahead of the fallout.